I think just playing ball. I mean, that kind of starts with the attitude and the energy that you bring to the park that day. Then when the game starts, and then the biggest thing is when the game starts, if you think it's going to go well, I hope you're sitting at a big league game and you're watching a perfect game by a pitcher. But other than that, it's not going to go well. So batten down the hatches, compete, grit, whatever phrases you want to throw out there, but you're going to need it, and you're going to need it for all 9 innings, and today looked like you might need it for extra, and it's typically how Sundays go, really, when you end a series. It kind of usually goes like it did today, and fortunately we're at our home field, so that changes things too, but you got to, if you're going to have success, you're going to play in the postseason or whatever, you got to be able to get after it on the road. But man, these kids love playing in this environment, and I know it's a tough environment to pitch in, to play in when you're the opposing team.
How important was the offensive success really these last 2 days for the confidence of the lineup?
Yeah, I think it helps the confidence of the pitchers more than anything. Some of those guys were guilty of trying to be perfect. Obviously, our first 2 days out in Arizona, it's a bigger park. We were kind of finding our lineup a little bit. Guys didn't swing it that great. They want to come out and, be the Vols are going to conquer the world. And then some other games too, where maybe we could have done some things to help our pitchers out. And hey, you're going to win and lose as a team. If it's 2-1, you don't say, this is one play or we needed to hit more. And if it's 10-9, same thing. Going to win or lose as a team. And part of that is just taking a deep breath and recognizing everybody's out there competing. I hope, and you all got to work together. Sometimes you pick a guy up, kind of like our last 2 guys did today out of the pen. They were excellent, and then sometimes a guy picks you up.
How big was Andrew Lindsay's performance today?
It was great. I mean, really the last out he got was the biggest out. But in general, it was really strong. And it's tough to go to the next guy because he wants to be out there. He wants to pitch every day. He's one of those guys that's got a resilient arm. So I assume he's available tomorrow. But when he's out there too, he wants to be the guy that decides whether it goes well or doesn't for the team. So starts with that attitude, and then when you have stuff like his, it helps. But again, I think the biggest thing he did today was get that last out that he got in that inning.
What did you think of Chase Burns? Looked like he really settled in, ran into some trouble with 2 outs there.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, Chris Burke deserves blame. He jinxed him. He was talking about how good he was throwing, but it was kind of the opposite of last night. It kind of was slow for things to get into rhythm, and then all of a sudden your guy looks like he can conquer the world himself in Doe. And then today was the opposite. You almost don't need to have anybody in the bullpen. We did, but then one thing happens and it kind of bleeds to another. But overall, you want your starter to leave the game giving your team a chance to win, and he did that. And then you get the blip on the radar screen with Kirby. I think that was kind of I don't want to say a freak thing, but an abnormal thing. Don't anybody call me Tom Izzo. But kind of a freak thing, although I would like that. He's a fellow Italian and he's a legend. Got to meet him thanks to Coach Barnes earlier this year, and that guy is funny and nice. But Kirby usually gets you out of that jam, and then bam, he gets the next one. Doesn't go well for us, and that's a great opportunity for the team to kind of fall apart. Kirby keeps his composure, which might be his best asset, and then the guys bounce back the way that he do. That's one that formulates you as a team and gets everybody quit talking about other guys that have played here 2-3 years ago, and what we want to be. You can't just wish it or want it. You gotta play games, and then stuff happens. I was joking. It's what I told the ESPN guys, and this team is starting to become just that.
What makes Jared Dickey so impressive or so effective in those kind of high leverage situations?
I think his belief. I mean, your self-belief is kind of everything when you get down to March Madness or these games in the SEC are all. I mean, you see how high-strung everybody is, and home plate umpire does an excellent job throughout the game of kind of keeping everybody calm. But it's hard to do when it's like I think you use the word leverage, when it kind of seems like every pitch is like that. But you got to have self-belief, man. And if you start to doubt yourself, you get exposed. And if you have self-belief, then it'll go your way a lot. But in this game, it's not going to go your way every time. If I'm not mistaken, he smoked the ball in the first inning when we really would have liked to tie it up, and it didn't go his way. So it won't always go your way, but he is I like self-made guys. And it's not like he didn't have talent. We recruited him here. But in so many ways, he is a self-made guy, and that helps his self-image, which is pretty strong.
Cam did mention that they're starting to become a team over this last week. Have you kind of noticed that and picked up on that as well?
Yeah, again, I think natural progression of time in events, going on. We haven't had any, special meeting or put up any sign or send out any video or anything like that. this is a time of year where you're getting close, I think, to school being over with, and you kind of now know some things, and the less question marks. You show up to the park and play. And as you do that, there's going to be some things that happen. Again, like today, several situations where guys picked themselves up, picked their teammate up, or got picked up themselves. So I think it's happened naturally and organically, which is probably the best way.
Going off that, how big is it for this team to get a win like this where you come back?
Yeah, you gotta. You can't do it until you've done it, so to speak. And that kind of focuses, again, on this sole group. We've been fortunate. There's been a lot of those in this stadium, and I think I mentioned to John and Vince, it has to do with our fans. It's just a tough place to play, and I know there's other ones in our league like that too, but ours is probably more unique or different than any other place. So it can be tough on the opponent, and it helps our guys. So if I was going to bet on it, it was probably going to happen here, but once you do it, now you got, again, back to that self-belief. We can do it again here at Lindsey Nelson, and we've done it before, so why can't we do it on another ball field?
So Jacobs in the lineup tonight. I know you moved in and Merritt down and Inslee the 4, Star DH. Kind of what went into the thought process here?
Just kind of looking at it and seeing if we needed to do anything different. I mean, obviously physically, but also mentally, I'm not very good at standing still. And when you want to do better, you can't force it, but you can try and look at things in different perspective. And really, at the end of the day, when we looked at the lineup, you could almost kind of flip it, or you had a good feeling from top to bottom. There was some depth there, but also there's a little bit of a signal to encourage those guys to stay to the ball a little better. And I'm glad safety worked out on the ball Griffin hit, because it was a great example of what he's doing when he's at his best, what he needs to do. And even though some of those guys didn't have great days, I really liked how competitive the at-bats were throughout the lineup.
What did it say about Hunter that he didn't have a couple good at-bats to start, and then 2 strike hit kind of sparked things there in the 7th?
Yeah, I mean, he's, at least to my knowledge, maybe he's got more thoughts going on in his head in that first inning. He really wants to gear up and do well, but you don't need to do that. You just kind of need to play. So maybe he's settled in. But Coach A and I even talked about it during BP as we were walking around the field. The guy's a ball player. He loves being here. He grew up, dreaming of playing for the Vols. I think that's always special. And he's a fighter. I mean, he likes to get in there and compete. And maybe sometimes it goes to the nth degree and he gets a little too excited, as mentioned in the first inning. But overall, you're going to get a guy that's competing, and that helps you sleep at night, whether it goes well or it doesn't.
What did we see from Chandler Shule in his last couple of outings, getting that ground out for the double play?
Yeah, in his first outing here on Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, was really good. Throwing strikes. He looks like he's more composed and, I don't want to say smarter, but it looks like he's doing things on a little bit more intelligent level. He's got that experience factor. I think a guy that's back, we even mentioned it when we did have a team meeting, it was a while ago. Hey, the bullpen's done well, roles are starting to get defined, but also help is on the way. Because we don't want to gas out any one guy in particular in this part of the season, but you got a guy with experience, and again, I'll win or lose with that guy on or off the field, I'll sleep just fine that night, even for a guy that doesn't sleep that well.